One, the legal framework and reforms. Secondly, the voter registration process. Thirdly, the election management and communications. Open data and access to information. Observer rights and security. Voter education. And lastly, political party nominations and campaigns. In terms of the election day key findings, ILOG issued 3 statements, one on the pre-election on the 8th of August 2022, on the election day 9th of August 2022, and further a preliminary post-election statement on 10th of August 2022. And these statements focused on the following areas: setup and opening, voting, as well as the closing and counting. Allow me, therefore, to now speak to our ILOG 2022 PVT results and turnout. ILOG wishes to note and remind all Kenyans that the IEBC is constitutionally mandated to announce and declare the final official results of the elections. ILOG received, verified, and analyzed observation reports from 99% of its PVT observers from 990 polling stations. These observers arrived at their assigned polling stations at 5:30 a.m. and remained there throughout the voting and counting until the results for the presidential election for the polling station were announced and posted. PVT observers reported the official results as announced by the presiding officers for sampled polling stations via coded text messages using their mobile phones. Because they rely on scientific statistics, PVT findings have a margin of error, MOE. The margin of error for the ILOG's PVT results can be thought of as a range within which the true results should fall. The margin of error is not a measurement of quality, but rather how precise the estimate is. Election results. ILOG's PVT estimates are consistent with IEBC's official results for the 2022 presidential election. In light of our assessment of the election day processes, and given that IEBC figures fall within the projected ranges, the PVT projections therefore corroborates the official results. Below are the ranges projected by the ILOG PVT for each of the candidates. These ranges are determined by the PVT estimates and the margin of error. And I will proceed to read out these results. Comparison of official IEBC results with ILOG PVT projections. Candidate 1, Odinga Raila Amolo. Official IEBC result, 48.85%. PVT projection, 48.7%. Margin of error, plus or minus 2.1%. Candidate number 2, Ruto William Samoei. Official IEBC results, 50.49%. PVT projection, 50.7%. Margin of error, plus or minus 2.1%. Candidate number 3, Waihiga David Mwaure. Official IEBC result, 0.23%. PVT projection, 0.2%. Margin of error, plus or minus 0.1%. Fourth candidate, Wajakoya George Luchiri. Official IEBC result, 0.44%. PVT projection, 0.5%. Margin of error, plus or minus 0.1%. With regard to turnout, the PVT projection for final turnout is 65.1%. with a margin of error of plus or minus 0.7%. IEBC's official turnout of 65.4% falls within ILOG's estimated range and accurately reflects the turnout of the voters. This is a notable drop from previous elections. With regard to the rejected votes, the PVT projection for the final rejected ballots is 0.8% with a margin of error of plus or minus 0.1%. Having observed the electoral process over a period of time, it is clear that we have made strides towards credible elections. The country still has a lot of work to do. Some of the issues that need to be addressed to improve the integrity of elections which constitute ILOG's recommendation include the following. 1, the quick resolution of election-related court cases ahead of the election day, particularly those that directly impact election day procedures and processes. Secondly, ensuring the transparency in the integrity and maintenance of the voter register, including providing full access to the KPMG audit report and clear status updates on the uptake of recommendations from the report. In addition, working with stakeholders to independently audit the register will help improve the integrity of the register. Thirdly, provision of consistent civic and voter education as provided by the Constitution to ensure that voters are well informed of their rights and responsibility. 4, punishing electoral offences and ensuring enforcement of code of conduct for political parties or candidates. Ensuring consistent openness, transparency, inclusive participation, and timely access to information by the IEBC and the other agencies concerned with election management. 6, ensuring that all polling stations are physically accessible to persons with disabilities and the elderly. 7, ensuring the implementation and enforcement of the campaign finance regulation and timely electoral legal reforms to avoid giving an undue advantage to the incumbents. 8, ensuring that the results transmission process is clear and understandable to all stakeholders and that the Commission shares with the citizens and other stakeholders the final election results in a granular and machine-readable format. 9, maintaining simplicity and transparency of the election day processes, as well as accuracy and verifiability of the results management and transmission processes. 10, ensuring the safety and security of voters, observers, and other stakeholders throughout the electoral process. And finally, reducing the cost of elections in order not to overburden taxpayers. In conclusion, ILOG will issue a final and comprehensive report on the 2022 elections within 60 days of the declaration of the final election results. The report will provide a more in-depth analysis of the 2022 electoral environment, as well as provide far-reaching recommendations on needed reform areas ahead of the next election cycle. We wish to commend all Kenyans for participating in these elections as voters, officials, candidates, and observers. Following the announcement of the results, we urge that political actors act in good faith, promote peace among the supporters, and seek any redress for grievances through the courts of law. God bless Kenya, and thank you. We wish to end there, and annexed to our statement will be the full computation and the table of our PVT sample. Thank you very much.
Thank you. As you noted, the statement is quite comprehensive, even additional text, not reading all the facts, and you get what is the last statement. Any questions? Okay. Let's have,
Yes, I would like to know of the split That's a leak on it.
How that goes out is free
Did you get that one?
There is one place that has not been active, and that is the social media. So, what have you observed from social media?
Thank you. Let's answer those questions first, and then we can move to the others. Chair.
Thank you very much. We will take the questions together with the panel here. And I will start with a question on the cost of elections and value for money. And what ILOG has consistently raised alongside other stakeholders is that the underlying challenge of our Kenyan election is a question of trust. And the sooner we can resolve that, the better for making the cost of elections lower. If you look at whatever measures are put in place, majority of them are expensive, and it's towards enhancing and making sure the question of trust is addressed. So as a country, if we can consistently work towards ensuring there is trust in the process and with this election.
However, the chair of the commission, Chebukati for now, is pronounced the results as the returning officer for presidential elections. That is a role that is given by the Constitution and cannot be taken away. So whereas the fact that the commissioners were not there and did not agree with it, that would be a legal battle in itself. But for purposes of being a returning officer, he was in his right place to pronounce, and he was undertaking his constitutional duty as he pronounced the results. Now, if there is a grievance about the results, definitely the Supreme Court has the sole responsibility of arbitrating presidential elections. So fortunately, we do have...
Sorry, some media houses are requesting you to start.
Okay, back to square one. I understand that I wasn't audible enough, or some media houses have requested me to go back in. I want to say this. The Constitution gives the chair of the commission, IEBC, the mandate to be a returning officer for the presidential elections. So just like the returning officers were giving results, announcing results at the various polling stations, for presidential elections, it is the chairperson of IEBC that is mandated to do that task. And there is only one returning officer, and that's the chair of the commission. So when the chair of commission, the chair of IEBC announced the results, it was his constitutional duty to do so. Now, this is not to say that the results that he announced, whatever it is, that there could have been grievances around the results that he announced. The legal channel to deal with the results after they have been announced is to proceed to the Supreme Court. And we believe peacefully an aggrieved party should be free to proceed to the Supreme Court. And maybe he or she can use the evidence of the commission as declining. For the purposes of pronouncing the results of these elections, which had to be done, I think the chairperson was in his rightful duty to be able to perform this duty. And I mean, it is from my own perspective, it is a good thing that he did rather than did not, because it would have brought more speculation and anxiety in the nation. Thank you. I think the chair will tell us who will answer the other questions. There's a follow-up question? All right.
It's mentioned that the IEBC chair is the returning officer, but we'd like you to clarify when you see whether the fact that we had a speech and consoling the results that were about to be announced, does that in any way affect the credibility of the results themselves?
The credibility of the results, once it comes to the question, the Supreme Court will have to pronounce itself on that. With regards to the split, as I've already said, it is an unfortunate thing that they did not speak with one voice, but the returning officer for the purpose of this. I gave an example of a polling station. There are many people who are in the polling station, but the only
interruption of social media or any kinds of media. However, of course, with social media comes the responsibility to correctly inform, and questions of misinformation or disinformation did not start on the 8th of August, even before. We knew that there was need, and there had been a lot of stakeholders who had been asking and calling on Kenyans to correctly convey information or to fact check. So I think for us, what we'd like to call upon Kenyans is that you still have social media that is a powerful tool for information. It has been instrumental. However, on matters election, it has been clear we need to fact check. And for any questions in terms of, for example, any issue that has to do with the results, the official source, as has been stated consistently, has been the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. So we hope Kenyans will be able to interact with that, and whatever information is being relayed, even at this point, our appeal is a use of the media responsibly, and the question of fact-checking. That is very, very important. But bottom line, as we have stated, we herald the celebration and the gains. And notable that Kenyans need to appreciate is we've actually had an electoral cycle that has not had any social media interruption. That by itself is a milestone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before we ask the next round of questions, I know they are coming. Please remember that we are observers, and as observers, we observe on the basis of our findings, we give you an opinion on the basis of that. So don't ask subjective questions in terms of somebody, what we think about this, what we think of that. We have findings, we can talk from our findings. If you want individual questions, you can always see senior on the side, zero on the side, and ask the subjective questions, but we are presenting the hell of position. So let us maintain that. So who else is asking? Yes, yourself when it comes to it.
I think, I don't know if I got right. I just want to know, maybe as observers and your findings, from where you're sitting, do you think the drama that preceded the declaration process of result and the split, maybe, was it credible where you're sitting?
I'm not sure that the question is very clear. Drama is credible.
Drama that preceded the declaration of result yesterday at the Congress, from where you're seated as the observers, do you think what is not happening with the result of the election?
You mean does that affect the results?
Yes, exactly.
Does that affect the results? Okay. Yes, and then okay.
Mine was just a follow-up. Probably you said you are observers. Are we expecting another report based on yesterday's exact incident on the podium, what happened yesterday with the fracas that happened? Should we expect another report, or this is the last report?
Yeah, I don't know why the questions are just on the drama. Okay, the only issue that we have to remember that we are observers. And observers, they were not sitting there taking notes of what is going on. We were sitting there, we have observed the entire election process. We have given you our PVT projections, which speak to the results, but we also spoken on other issues. So the drama, we all witnessed it together with all of you. Whatever happened in the back door, in the bathrooms, we are also trying to find out.
Are we expecting a report?
No. Very important if you are getting more information, you can share that. But let me ask her also.
Hi, Lily, on your World Radio. Apologies if you've already addressed this, I was late. But what observations do you have of the behavior of political agents and politicians during this election period, especially how it compares to previous elections?
Okay. Question. Any other question? One final one. Okay. We'll check the list. Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much. I will start with the question about the behavior of the political class. I think in our statement we have reiterated over and over that we appreciate the peace and the calm that Kenyans in general have been able to observe. It has been a longer wait, but Kenyans have been very patient and have been calm. And for us, what we have raised is that any disagreement or any grievance, the law is very clear on where that needs to be taken, and that's the courts of law. So we really want to laud the Kenyans, and for the political class, our appeal as well as leaders is that they are aware of what channel to be able to take their grievances, and we hope that they take that channel there, and that channel is a courts of law. So that is very important. In terms of the consistency, as we have indicated, our PVT report is based on our sample stations. And so part of the findings, as we mentioned, is that we needed clarity on the manual register, which is part of our report. So again, to reiterate that our PVT results are based on the sample stations and the observations that we observed from these sample stations, which include the issue of the manual register, and it is contained in our statement. So I want to believe we have answered all the questions.
Comprehensive report within 60 days.
Yes, and we shall be issuing, just in addition to the question on the report, we shall be issuing our comprehensive report within 60 days. So once it is out, we will also encourage you to interact with it. We'll be available to answer questions. But again, we'd encourage you, as you receive copies of our statement, to interact with it comprehensively and to get the main issues that have been spoken to at this point.
Okay, so thank you very much for attending the